As defined in an old Greek movie, the true meaning of Kéfi is that desire left over after pain and sorrow. It's that outburst that turns into a smile, a song, or a dance. Kéfi is when you enjoy life in a holistic way and accept things you can't control but still find meaning in them. And sometimes, Kéfi is even stronger when life is tough, when you're grateful for the full spectrum of your emotions. Life is full of such contrasting moments, and that's what we talk about in the Kéfi podcast. I want to welcome you, Nicolás Uribe. Did I say it right?
Oh, dude, thank you. Yeah, you crushed it. That's pretty good.
Thank you so much. I'm super happy to have you around. We don't know each other that long, but we had a couple of conversations through Instagram, and I'm actually a really big fan of your art. And
thank you.
Since you're also sometimes sharing in the captions of your images, you're also sharing some insight into your life, or sometimes also perspective that could be valuable for other people. And it's not only just art teaching, but also an approach of how to artist, not only how to art. I thought it might be a good idea to invite you to this conversation and record it and share it with other people, because in this process of me getting to know you a little bit better, I might also get some insight for myself about you as a person and how you tackle things. So if you don't mind, I would like you to introduce yourself to the listeners.
Sure. Nicolás Uribe. So again, you crushed it with the pronunciation. I'm a painter. I was born in the US because both my parents were studying at that time in the US, but they're Colombian. Eventually, they lived like 10 years, 12 years in the US. Eventually, when I was little, they moved back home to where I am right now, which is Bogota in Colombia. Mm-hmm. When I was 17, the only thing I wanted to do, my grandfather was an artist. He was German. He moved to Colombia when he was young, like in the 1930. And that artistic sort of vein just was spread throughout the family. So my mother's an artist too. And in my upbringing, I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to be. From the beginning, I started drawing. Our house had that, benefit, I guess, that comes from having somebody who's artistic, which is that my mother shared, her art, not only when my grandfather did, but she always wanted us to be in contact with some sort of art. So it could be just paintings or illustration or comic books, but it was always something, we had to be kind of surrounded by it. And that was our upbringing. So my older brother, was a huge fan of like fantasy, illustration and comic books. And I sort of inherited that from him. He's like 8 years older than I am. So I always thought that, all the books that he would have were super, super cool. And I was like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do. So my first memories are just having, books with fraseta covers, all over the place. And I was like, oh, that, and it even felt weird. Like it felt like that was like a grown-up thing. Here I am, like this, very young kid just looking at Frank Frazetta's, work. And I was like, oh my God, this is supposed to be for like mature people. And, but it just felt right. It just always felt amazing. So I eventually got, when I was 17, I applied to two places, to like the Joe Kubert School for Cartooning, because I wanted to be a comic book artist. And I applied to SVA, to School of Visual Arts in New York also. But School of Visual Arts was, a lot more expensive than the Joe Kubert School. And we would even have trouble going to the Joe Kubert School. We, as in my parents and I, just thinking, how are we going to pay for this? And my father was like, just apply. It cost, I don't know, $80 to send the application form. It was expensive, at that point. But he was like, I'll cover that and, try to get a scholarship. And if you don't, then, you know, nothing happens, then we'll try for the other school. And I got the scholarship. So I got a 2-year scholarship, and then eventually, you know, 2 years into the my studies, I got like a scholarship and a bunch of grants to finish up my school. So I actually got, you know, full scholarship, and it was amazing. You know, I went to SVA. I started out, you know, my foundation year as a comic book artist, and I realized that I was horrible. I realized that I sucked. You know, I noticed that even though I wanted to tell stories, I noticed that I just really wasn't good at visual storytelling, you know, at pacing and rhythm. And the way I realized I wasn't good at it was that I saw people that were really good at it, that were studying there, you know, people that were super cool, and they lived for it. You know, they loved that part of comic books. To me, comic books was just, I think I saw them as a fan more than as somebody who would be able to, you know,
as a consumer. Yeah.
Story. Right. And I think in my mind, I could, you know, eventually, if I learned that, I could just balance the two things out. But the thing was that I didn't. You know, the truth was that I realized that while I loved the imagery, I was probably far closer to being an artist that could communicate the sense of a world more through one image than through, you know, panels and the pacing of visual storytelling. And I went to illustration, and I did, you know, I finished my studies in illustration. I did, what was it called? Yeah, illustration and cartooning. So I guess it was the same, you know, you specialized in the same thing, but you could go to either route. So I went through illustration and I graduated. I worked at an illustration, at a studio that was called, you know, the Illustration House in New York. And it was one of those very last studios that actually worked with ad, you know, firms, with ad agencies. So it kind of behaved like illustration studios of old, where you would just get ad projects. And while ad agencies would have illustrators in-house, we would just be like, you know, something that was completely separate, that was just artists. So we would do animatics, and it was really cool. I ended up working there for about 3 years. Prior to that, I was doing murals at a mural painting company. So I was doing that before I graduated. And yeah, so I loved it, but I loved painting, you know, even more than illustrating. So I love illustration. I think I am an illustrator at heart. That is my passion. But I think I loved just painting, where I could be my own art director and I could do whatever I want. And unfortunately, because I was working, I had to paint like Sundays. I only, you know, I was in a relationship back then, and the little bit of free time that I could get, you know, I was like, okay, I'm going to paint now. But I always felt guilty because I was working, and I was like, I should be spending more time with, you know, my girlfriend at the time, but, you know, but I want to paint. So I always felt kind of guilty for not being able to paint.
Yeah.
And the only possibility that I saw in my mind, you know, was coming back home, was saying, well, you know, I love living here. I love working here. This is an amazing experience, but I know that I can't make a living through painting. You know, if I'm going to start painting, I really can't make a living, you know, by painting. I would have to have like at least a couple of years where I could just, you know, work on enough paintings to then show them off, and then hopefully make enough sales that you could say, yeah, this money will be enough for like rent and living and actually making more paintings. But I just didn't see it. I just didn't see how I could do that. You know, I was alone there. I didn't have any family there, so I was pretty much on my own. And I told myself, no, this is going to be super tough. If I go back home, it's going to feel weird, but because it's going to feel like, you know, you didn't make it. Like, you know, you crawled your way through trying to be an artist, and you kind of made it, because I was working as an illustrator. I was making good money too. And then suddenly, you know, you have to give that all up and then go back home. but I was like, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to really push myself to try and be a painter. So, long story short, I got here. I tried to show my work, in a couple of galleries. None of them were interested. They saw me as this young artist, and young artists are usually seen as, as something kind of unknown, like an unknown quantity. So they don't want to spend like all their effort. They don't want to put all their effort into somebody who's young. They don't know what they're going to do, in 1 year's time, 2 years time. So it's very, very hard to get started when you're young. And eventually honestly, it's almost like shopping around. I just showed my work so much. By showing my work, I meant like I had 3 large paintings in a tube that I would unroll for people, for like curators and gallery directors. And, I immediately got rejected in so many places until at some point, this one gallery director, she was like, yeah, we really like it. And she called up the curator and they were like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. And they were like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, if I could have like a solo show, which is weird to ask for that, like right off the bat. But if I could have like a solo show in about a year and a half's time, that'd be awesome. And they were like, yeah, perfect. And I pretty much spent all my, savings in that year and a half just to, live and paint. And I put all my, eggs on that basket. I put all my chips in that show. And I ended up doing 47 paintings. One got stolen opening night, which is kind of like a cool story. Just somebody picked it up off the wall, and really? Everyone was like, "Oh yeah, that's probably like a person that works in the gallery," because it was packed. It was like 300 people.
Oh
there.
wow, that's a compliment, right?
yeah, and it became like the story of that show because they were like, "Oh my God, this is so good. People are stealing it," and. So we had 46 paintings, and 2 days after we opened, we had sold everything out. So I was like, yes, this is what I want to do.
Nice.
I mean, it sounds nice when things go well. I've known now in life that not every time you do something, it goes that well, but it just gave me enough energy and enough like an opportunity to believe in myself and to say, okay, if you sacrifice this, if this is what you wanted, then this is how hard you have to work, and this is how much you have to, put into this to give yourself a chance. That's the most important part. And I always told myself, if I want to do this, I want to do it just to keep working. I always told myself, like, I want to ask of life to give me the chance to just keep painting. That's all I want. Like, I don't want to have, I don't want to see it as a way to just earn money. I want to see it as a way to just keep painting, because that's actually what feeds my soul in a way. That's a way I kind of make sense of things. I think that because I've had that mindset, just life has been very, grateful to me, and I've done well. I've done really well, but it's never like doing well. It's never been my objective. I think that in life, if what you want to do is make money, then you make very different decisions. You make decisions based on making money. But if you want to do what you love, you make other sets of decisions. And, if things work out, at least you're happy doing what you love. If things don't work out when you're trying to make money, then you have no money and you wasted years of your life just doing something that you didn't want to do. So I always told myself, at least I'll always have, what I love, which is painting, even if I don't do well. So it's been a ride. I've done that, and I've taught at the visual arts faculty at the university, a huge university here in Bogota. I recently just said goodbye to it because I had been doing it for a long time, but I taught for 12 years there. I taught life drawing and painting, and I've taught workshops around the world, and just painting, giving me the opportunity to just travel the world, and that's awesome, and paint and do shows and all that cool stuff. So that's pretty much what I do. And now we have, with my girlfriend, this project of we're doing this weird project where we try to It's kind of hard to put into words, but we are putting our little grain into trying to fight this idea that art has to be super expensive and inaccessible. And the way we're doing it is that we are painting every day. So we're doing videos 5 days a week. So this kind of daily routine of painting. And the video is just like an accompaniment of, my own reflections, the kind of thought process that feeds the painting process. Mm. And then we put up the painting for sale for $250. So it could be a larger painting, smaller painting. It could be a gouache painting, oil painting. Like, technique doesn't dictate the price. That's always been like super arbitrary to me. I never understood really why a drawing has to cost less than a painting. Things that we have chosen to believe and take for, granted and say, yeah, that's how things are. But I've never understood it. And I kind of want to challenge that and say, hey, if you're buying something, we've gotten used to saying, I bought this print, it could be a giclée print or a really nice print. And what I can buy is this print because an original would be completely inaccessible and it would be very, very expensive. Again, that's expected. And what we want is to, make quality paintings every day and tell people, hey, if you're going to spend $250, you can spend it on a painting if you want. And we've done super well. Like we started January 1st and our plan is to go till December 31st next year. So it's 2 years of this because it's really, really hard. It's incredibly exhausting and draining and it's a ton of work, but we love it. And we've sold 100% of the paintings. So that's pretty amazing. We never expected. I always told my girlfriend, Danny, that I was like, I don't know if we are going to do this, at the beginning. I was like, I don't know if we're going to do well. Like my expectation is that we sell about 40 to 50%, that if we do that, that's fine. We're going to do fine. So let's kind of aim for that. But I never expected people to just be so supportive and to just really understand, I guess, what we're doing, not just see it as, hey, we're selling paintings, here's the link, buy it, and I guess sometimes we artists, painters, drafts people, we tend to just do that and say, hey, my work is cool, buy it, and that's it. But we don't try to like get people, to be a part of our process and what we believe in. And I think that we've concentrated on that and not solely just saying, yeah, this is for sale, buy it.
So how do you tackle the problem with daily drawing and like not giving up? Because obviously, even though it's fun for you, and even though and my friend Evan has done the same, it was quite the success. And I mean, we even published the works. What I'm talking about is that the thing about daily drawing is basically probably even harder than, I don't know, like going to the gym, I would assume, because you have to constantly come up with something original, right? And it's not just moving or something or having the discipline or something. It's also like this has to be worth the effort.
Right. Yeah. And don't put Evan in this conversation because he's a beast. He's different. So please. Yeah. And he's not from this world. That dude is just crazy good. Yeah. What you're saying is exactly right. I think that I always tell Danny, like the painting part of it, just, that's no strain for me, no physical strain or mental strain, because I've been painting for, 24 years now straight, like literally straight. And so for me, standing up or sitting down and painting, that's my life. Like that feels as natural as anything, that's as natural as a football player saying, yeah, I have to go to the pitch and play. That's it. That's my life. That's what I love to do. That's what I've loved to do since I was a kid. So that's never going to be like an effort. But I always tell her the effort is trying to verbalize, like when I'm doing voiceovers, to try and understand myself enough that I can verbalize what I'm trying to do and to kind of find my way, and then to reflect upon it and then to gauge it, to say, okay, what was my intent here? Did I get close? No. Why didn't I get close? What was I trying to do when we do themed weeks? And by doing themed weeks, we could just, superficially say, hey, this is a challenge, this is the challenge for this week, and then that's it. But I don't think that would work for me, in the sense that I think I have to have something that ends up teaching me something. And I guess, to answer what you were saying, if I see all these opportunities as kind of stepping stones, as, this was not only a week that had a specific theme that made me, formally kind of put my gaze, in another direction, and put all my efforts into doing, other types of paintings. But if I just see it as something that can leave something behind for me, like there are teachings there that I can actually grow from, and I just have to identify them throughout the week, then that sounds super exciting, and my exercise, my personal exercise, has been throughout the weeks to just say, what can I learn from this? What can I actually take away from this week that can push me forward? Forward, not meaning I want to be a better painter. Like that's not a goal for me. And not to say that, oh, it's not a goal because I'm already a good painter. No. I'm going to die having known nothing about painting. Painting and drawing is this thing that the more you do it, the more you realize this is very, very tough. This is very, very humbling, and this is very, very tough. In one of my videos, I put a moment of a little video. We kind of had this picture-in-picture of this little moment of Kim Jung-gi saying, I have to muster enough courage to do this watercolor because I feel really insecure about doing this watercolor because I haven't done watercolor in such a long time. Mm-hmm. And he was genuinely, and it was almost adorable, just him being nervous about doing this watercolor. And this is him. He's probably one of the greatest, draftsmen of our time, I would say. I don't think anyone knows I mean, we all know, but I think, the bigger sense of us, doesn't realize how insane, the ability he has, how insane of an ability he has, and how gifted of a person he is, and how much he works too. I mean, this is not something that's free, but so the more you do it, you can get to that God level, to that Kim Jung-gi, God level of drawing, and still feel insecure about drawing, and still feel insecure about doing a watercolor. And that's the point. I think, I'm pretty sure that people that are remarkable at it, and you probably know Evan, well, you for sure know him better than I do, but I'm sure that, but I'm sure that if you know him, I'm positive that that's this, even though it looks easy for him, and even though it looks like he enjoys every second of what he does, I'm sure it's a very humbling act also. I'm sure that every time he wants to investigate more and learn more and sees, the more you know, the more you realize that the more you have to learn, the bigger expanse of this universe that you want to like investigate, and you want to kind of know. So it's this never ending kind of fountain, you never reach a place. I studied with James Jean, and, watching James when he was younger, it's like, oh my God, you can't get better than that. And I guess formally, when James is doing like a drawing, pushing himself, you can't get better than that. I mean, it's insane. And that's when you realize, well, there is, it's not like there's this roof that you can never reach. No, it's just that eventually you get this tool, and then you just have to use that tool to push yourself and to investigate things and to solve things. And that's what's amazing about it. And I guess, I'm not at the same level as I don't have the ability that Evan has, or not even close, the one that Kim Jung-gi has. But it's my process. I always tell people, who's going to be as good as Kim Jung-gi? I mean, that's him. We have him in this world for that, and we just should celebrate that. But for the rest of us, we just have to walk our own path and just figure things out in our own way. And that's the most exciting part. So I guess with our project, what we've been trying to do is that, it's, hey, be part of this project where I'm trying to figure things out. Honestly, it's just that. It's that open. And I try to be super honest with my process. And I don't try to, kind of project myself as a painter that I'm not. When I struggle, I say I'm struggling. Like, I have no issue in saying I'm struggling. And when something is difficult, I'll say something is difficult. And when I like something, I'll say that I like something. But the point is not to sort of castigate, to reprimand the moments where we feel insecure, we feel like, we struggled. Art usually does that. When we think of somebody, drawing something and it doesn't come out quite right, we think it's a failure. That's a failed drawing. I don't see anything like that. I don't see failed paintings. They're all opportunities to just grow and learn, and that's it.
Yeah, it's a stepping stone on the way in the end. I mean, from there, you probably just proceed. But what I wonder is, because you basically just you have this great, you just gave me this great segue into the whole discussion of imposter syndrome, because the way that you put it, it basically sounds like it would be part of your personality to, but not in a bad sense, but more like that it's more like that you using it to be more humble about your skill and just see it as a part of evolution. Did I get that right?
Yeah. In a sense, I think I mean, in a sense, I think painting has also shaped the person that I am. So I guess there is a natural sensibility that I have. But I think that also this is something that's reciprocal. I don't think that drawing or painting is something that you impose on a manner of working. Like, you don't impose yourself on that. I think the best results come from you sort of navigating this exchange between yourself trying to draw something and then your drawing telling you, hey, this is what happened. And in my mind, I think that's the only way to understand it. Like, whenever I see Kim Jun-ji drawing, and I think the act of him drawing is what's most remarkable. I think the drawing itself, there's a lot of people that can draw from their imagination, or they can kind of prepare themselves to draw like one of those single images, and they can make, amazing, and they can have like amazing results. What's amazing about Kim Jun-ji is the way he travels through a drawing, the way he constructs a drawing. Mm-hmm. That is just, out of this world. That's just so remarkable, that he can actually understand like spaces and rhythms in his drawings, and the way just certain objects or interactions can occupy just certain areas of the drawing. That's just insane. That is so difficult, so very difficult. And to do it in a committed manner, that's crazy. To do it with a brush pen, it's just, insane. I don't think people realize how absurd that even sounds. But I think that that's only possible, or I'd like to believe this, because that would be the only thing that would connect me with somebody who's that talented. But I think the only way that's possible is if you kind of you take some feedback from your drawing. You're very conscious, not only of you yourself just imposing yourself onto this piece of paper while drawing, but that the drawing is kind of giving you hints as to what you have to do. And it's the same thing with painting, the exact same thing with painting. I mean, you start with an intent and you're trying to paint something, and then the painting is telling you like, hey, pay attention to these things that are happening here if you want. It's always a choice. And try to navigate this painting in this particular way. And if you kind of let go of your ego, or of your intent, of all these expectations that you may have with your own work, then you can go on this ride with painting that's amazing. And going back to what you said, that's kind of what makes it exciting for me every single day. Like, I don't get bored by painting, because I'm not, even though I can paint people, I guess that would be my motif, if you want to say that. I don't get bored because I'm not really doing the same painting again and again and again. Painters and draftspeople, what we tend to do is we just pick subject matter and we get really good at doing that. And we'll just, even though the formal qualities of the image may be slightly different, we end up painting or drawing the same thing over and over and over again. It's like our go-to, this is like what we know how to do, and we'll just do it because it reminds us of how good we are. And it reminds us of, people liking, and the expectation that people have to, it's like, oh no, but I wanted to see of you this. Now, I don't want to see you experimenting and doing this other thing. Like, your thing is this. Like, I've given myself a chance throughout my career to just do whatever I want. So I always seek people. I always seek gallery directors or people that I could work with that would tell me, do whatever you want. And then it's my job to try and find, try and sell this or try to find, a market for this, but you do you. And I always appreciated that. I always tell people that is actually, even though you may find those people in smaller galleries or smaller, editorials or publishing places, go for those people, because that in the long run is going to be something that you can benefit so much from, because you're going to be happy. When somebody gives you liberty to do what you want, you're going to work harder. You're going to be happy with what you're doing. Yeah. And again, even though it may prove to be like not a bad business decision, but a place where you could potentially earn less money than some other places, I think that at that moment, we have to say, okay, but maybe what I want is this creative freedom to just, do what I want. And I've always seeked people like that in my life. And I'm super happy that I did, because that has allowed me to just paint whatever the hell I want. And to me, that's, glorious. Just to have that feeling that I could sit down and just do what I want, whatever I want, with like color or distortion or whatever, just because I wanted to, try things out, is awesome. I'm not beholden to anything. So
does that put any pressure on you when you basically not only, like, because it's not like client work, right? And it's not like working on your own IP, but you also have to find out what people might like and still be happy about what you did. How much pressure is that, and how are you dealing with that? Because it sounds horrible.
Yeah. No, I don't think, I always tell people, I'm 43, so I'm I think of a different generation from people that are working in, social media. Like, let's say when Evan started, I'm sure he started out understanding that Photoshop could be his tool, even though I've seen him do like traditional drawings that are incredible, but he understood that as his tool, and he understood social media as his tool too. I didn't really, I understood galleries and, the gallery circuit to be my tool. And I think the amount of rejection that you get from gallery circuits is so big, it's so tough, that it gives you like a really, hard skin, and it makes you kind of believe in who you are and what you do. And of course, you're not immune to going to a gallery and them saying, hey, we sold, these 2 paintings of flowers, let's say, you did, last month, they sold really well. And, now we have 20 people that are asking about flower paintings. So I think it would be a good idea to do flower paintings. And again, like everything in life, that's going to be a moment where you decide, and this is your choice, to say, well, I wanted to do 2 flower paintings. I didn't want to do 20 flower paintings, but maybe you say like, oh, but I'm like, short on rent, and maybe, we wanted to take this trip, and maybe that money could go for that trip. And you can justify it in 1,000 of, good ways, wholehearted ways, or you can justify it in like terrible, artificial ways, but it's going to be your choice to say, I'm going to paint those 20, flower paintings. But my point is that I was constantly, sensing that from, that part of the art world. And I always not rejected it, but I always said, no, I much rather just have those 2 flower paintings, and then I'm going to do paintings about this other thing. And if they sell, fine. If they don't sell, fine. So I think what that gave me is this ability to really not care in the good sense, I don't care about analytics or likes or anything. So we have all those tools. I have them available in my Instagram. We have them available in our YouTube channel, which is very small. I mean, we started small, and trying to migrate, people from Instagram to like a YouTube channel is almost impossible. And we're not monetizing anything. We're not, even open to advertising or being supported by anything. This is like super clean. This is like super, super raw. So the videos get likes or views just because actual people are finding them. You actually have to go through great efforts to try and find the videos. And I like that idea more than just working for, saying, oh my God, what do we have to do to get more likes in this, or more views, or more anything. So I've never been keen on any of that. I don't care about any of that. So if I do a painting and 2 people like it, and then I do another painting and, 15,000 people like it. Same. It's exactly the same to me. I know that people may not say like, oh, that's bullshit. No, it's not. Like, and honestly, it's not. I don't care. I really don't care. Like, that has been the way I've led my life till now. And I'm older now and I don't care. Like, the people, I've had students that try to have like a really big social presence, and they try to build from the analytics up, not from their, and I always tell them I built from my work, up. I never built from the from all the math that's underneath this thing.
But that's different. Like seriously, that's different, because you already had people buying your paintings, and from there you went to social media. These are people who are trying to even start selling paintings because they want to use social media.
Right, and I understand that completely. But if you look at the two markets, they were absurdly, different. My buyers from paintings they didn't even know what Instagram was.
No, but you don't need them. That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't need social media to make a living.
Exactly. But but nowadays we work solely on social media. Solely. At some point I was like, I don't want to be part of a gallery circuit, because again, this idea of having sold paintings for 20 years and then suddenly saying, hey, all my paintings are going to be worth 5%. That small painting is going to be worth 5 to 10% of what it usually sold for. And galleries are like, no, you can't do that, because we've worked for years trying to build a consistent market, and you're pretty much just, I'm sorry, but shitting on the market if you're doing that. You're disrespecting a lot of people. And I had to talk to a lot of people and say, I'm not really disrespecting that price point. Don't feel betrayed. I'm saying that because we've done so well, we have gotten ourselves to this point where we can say we're going to make everything more accessible. So I think that's amazing. And it goes against the kind of rule of saying, if you've done really well, just put another zero to it. That's your goal, to always add another zero to whatever you do. And so that was very hard for me. But in understanding that I had to then, sacrifice that market for a market that I would control, which my only option would be doing it through social media, which would mean that this were people that had never bought a painting from me. Never. So it was honestly kind of like starting out. So yeah, you may carry this idea that, oh yeah, you're a painter that used to sell paintings, outside. But once you start doing, hey, this painting, because I didn't know what I was doing at the beginning. It was the same thing I was saying at the beginning, like, hey, this painting is for sale, like DM me if you're interested. And doing like the least amount of effort to trying to sell something, because that is the least amount of effort.
But did it work?
Yeah, it did work.
It did work. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it did work. It did work. But, it was a tiny fraction, like the representation of the market based on the number of followers was just such an almost insignificant percentage of that number. It's amazing. It was incredible. And if you, at the beginning, I was trying to reach a price point that was somewhat similar to what I would get selling through a gallery. That was almost impossible. I was like, oh God, now I realize why, for example, James, when he does prints, he works with large numbers of prints and pre-orders, and it just makes it accessible. And then you're not trying to tell people, hey, this painting is, I don't know, $500,000, but you're trying to convince, I don't even know what his editions, the run his editions go for, but you're convincing 2,000 people of buying a single print, that's going to be up for like a couple of days. And it's a whole different, market. Like, that's completely different when you're trying to just find one whale that can buy, a very expensive painting, than to saying, I need 2,000, active people that can, be paying me for either a print or a book. I'm sure that you've, perfectly know this already, but trying to maintain like a large number of people being interested in these smaller projects. And that's incredible. But I didn't have that experience. I only knew that, you know, if people were interested in my painting, I probably could find somebody who'd be willing to paint X amount of money. But then I had to adjust my expectations to say, okay, there is a market here in social media. Not to say that you wouldn't be able to sell a painting for, you know, tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars through Instagram. You can, for sure, but that's not really, you know, that market, you know, that's not really the marketplace for that. So I had to like adjust everything. And I guess eventually I realized, wow, there's so many people that will love to buy something. It's just that they're not kind of in tune with the prices that, you know, the regular art market kind of follows. And that's what prompted this idea of saying, well, let's just bring everything down. I mean, it's still expensive, $250 for a painting. I mean, $250 for anything, it's still expensive.
Excuse me? No.
Yeah, no, but you know, I'm Colombian, so you know, I kind of
no, really. How much time do you spend on one painting?
Well, but I've never seen it as that. I never seen it as that.
But I'm asking you.
I never do the equations like that. I probably spend, I know, in the ones that I do here, anywhere from 4 to 6 hours, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, what? $50 an hour? It's totally fine. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not expensive.
No, I know. And this is perhaps us, you know, speaking from different countries, but yeah, that, I mean, for example, we've only out of 200 and I think we're getting close to 250. Out of 250 paintings that we've sold this year, 4 have gone to Latin American countries. 4. Mm-hmm. 4. We don't have like people in Latin America, they go like, oh, I'll watch the videos for free. That's amazing. Thank you. But yeah, we haven't got like a single, you know, donation from Latin America. And we've sold 4 paintings. And this is my people. Like, this is what I understand as my side of the earth. And I totally get it.
I understand that the wages are different and all that stuff. Like, I understand that. Exactly. But still, like for your buyers and for your target group, I don't think that $250 for a painting. I can find that stuff on most artists' sketchbook pages in their shop where they're like selling a sketch. That's probably the same amount that they ask for. Yeah, right. Well, my point, you know, and my understanding and all of this is that honestly, you know, it's expensive. Like, art is expensive, and it's unnecessarily expensive, to be honest. Well, it's a luxury, of course. Yeah, right, you don't need it like that. And you know, the defense of this is like, well, it's always been like this, because I always tell people, you know, honestly, it's just too expensive. Art is way too expensive. It shouldn't have to be that expensive. I don't care how many hours you work in. I mean, there's people that work so much harder than we do. There are people that want to kick you right now. Oh, I'm sure. But it's way too expensive. And people go like, well, you know, don't take the right away from people to pay whatever they want for, you know, a work of art. And that's a completely, I'm not against capitalism, by the way. I mean, I'm saying that with my, you know, PS5 headphones, and I just got a PS5, and, you know, I got like, yeah. And I bought a new computer this year. So no, please, this is not anti-capitalist. I think that if you work hard, you should be able to just spend your money in whatever you want. If you want to help other people out, that's amazing. If you want to buy, you know, nice things for yourself, for your kids, that's your choice. But I do believe that we could sell work for cheaper. I really do think that we could sell work for cheaper. I don't think this is a matter of if. I think it's a matter of choice. You know, it's a matter of, hey, you can make that more accessible. That's just a simple truth. And it would hurt nobody. I mean, I don't want to say betrayed, but I probably pissed off a lot of people that bought my paintings for tens of thousands of dollars. And now, why didn't they just wait a couple of years? Yeah, and now they go like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what is going on? Like, this doesn't make sense for anything. Yeah. And I myself have put, you know, myself in this situation where in the future, like, what do I do now? Like, what the hell do I do? Because this is a 2-year project, but I can't just finish this 2-year project and say, okay, now prices are, you know, the same as ever. Because this is something that I actually believe in, and that would betray that. And I can't go back now. Like, this is a
thing, and I think this was a decision for us to say, hey, if we are going to do this, this is it. Like, you know,
there's the pressure I was asking about. So what are you going to
yeah,
do?
I don't know. But if you ask me, if you ask me every year what I would do the next year, I would always tell you I don't know. And this is me having two kids. My kids are now 13 and 9, which I think that's amazing. Like, that's my biggest accomplishment. I mean, to think that, because when I was younger, I was like, oh, forget it. I'm not going to get married. I'm not going to have kids. Like, what I want to do is paint and travel and just enjoy life. That's going to be hard enough. But I can't really be responsible, you know, for, you know, other people. Like, this is, I'm an artist. Like, I have to just make it by. Like, the purpose in life for an artist is just to be alive. And that's enough. That's more than enough. And, you know, fast forward, like I got divorced. Now I'm in an amazing relationship, but my kids are, you know, I don't know how I've done it for 13 and 9 years. Like, and they're fine. They are in school. They're great. They are happy. And I've done this with painting and education, but education doesn't count because God knows they, you know, it's one of the worst paid, you know, jobs in the world, unfortunately, at least here in Colombia. But I've been able to do it in some way. But if you ask me, you know, for each one of those years, you know, of those 20 some odd years that I've been painting, what was I going to do, you know, the next year? I would tell you, I don't know, because I think part of being an artist is just kind of navigating this uncertainty. We never know, never. And it doesn't matter if you're working for, let's say, if you're working at a video game, you know, publishing company, you could get fired right after your project is done. And you can do really well, and then you can not have a job for the next, you know, 2 years. You could work at a university like I did, and if they changed the directors, they could change you. You know, I had to sign a contract every 6 months. Every 6 months for 12 years, I had to sign a contract. That meant that every 6 months I was just, they could just throw me away and say, yeah, thanks. You know,
were you worried about that?
Always, but at some point, you can't worry about those things because they're there. They're always going to be there, you know? Yeah. And again, it's your choice to say, I'm going to stress the hell out. And that's going to be part of my every thought in life, in my everyday life. And that's going to shape the choices that I make, because every single time the uncertainty is I'm going to feel the pressure of uncertainty. So if I wanted to carry that burden to say, fuck, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I have to be responsible for my kids' education and, you know, what they wear and what, you know, the food that they eat, and to give them a home. If you start thinking like that, it becomes a weight that nobody can carry. Nobody. Yeah. And if you start thinking that, you know, there are no, like, there's not going to be a single job out there that is going to tell you, don't worry, like, I got your back, and you just care about your family and work hard and you'll be fine because I'm going to take care of you. That doesn't exist. I mean, that probably exists in some places, but that is so not common. So I always told myself, if I'm surrounded by this, everywhere I look, I'm surrounded by this, then don't worry. Like, you can't control any of that. You really, really can't. So don't worry. And it's the same thing when you're planning for a show. I mean, yeah, if you're working for like nice galleries, sometimes they'll have collectors that are interested in some of your paintings, and, you know, you put out, you do your show and you put up some paintings, and large ones are probably going to be sold out before even the show comes up. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be working, you know, you could be working a year and a half on a show that doesn't sell. And nobody can guarantee you that year and a half is going to be compensated in some way. Nobody can assure you that. And I mean, and this year is like an insane proof of that for many, many artists.
Yeah.
So I think that pressure is something that I just, you know, a couple of years ago, I told myself, I'm not afraid anymore. And I'm not afraid anymore just because I think that I'm so successful and I have, like, you know, oodles of cash in my savings. No, I don't have any of that. I have 2 kids. You can't, you know, you can't have that and have 2 kids, by the way. Yeah, that doesn't happen. So no. We live like month by month, you know. almost, I would even say like day to day. I still, every single day of this year, and this makes me and my girlfriend Danny laugh so much, but every single day we get a text from my mother that looks to see if we sold the painting for that day. And she's like, I'm so nervous. I can't deal with this. You haven't
Really?
sold it. Yeah, every day. For her, it's like Sisyphus. It's like
what
Sisyphus.
If you don't sell it for one time? Like, what's she gonna do?
I'm a disgrace.
Nervous
I'm
breakdown.
a disgrace for her. Yeah, I'm totally sure. It's like she goes like, don't worry, it's gonna get better. Don't worry. And we had this conversation like 2 days ago, like that. During this week, we painted gouache, which is something that I'm not really good at. And I did that first gouache painting and sold up until like late afternoon that day. And my mother was like, don't worry, I'll light this candle up for you. Everything's gonna be fine. And I'm like, Mom, we've sold like over 250 paintings this year. We are fine. Like we're totally fine.
Yeah, really.
And she was like, no. I'm gonna pray for you. I'm gonna light this candle. And I was
250 a day. It probably doesn't sound much to a mom. I'm not sure what she's used to, but if you count it for a year,
no. We've done really well. Yeah, we've done pretty well. We've done pretty well. I mean, people don't understand. People usually, because people in the US go like, well, you're two people and we do everything 50-50 with my girlfriend. So we split everything we make. And people go like, well, then that's not so much. And after taxes, maybe that's not so much. And if you start thinking in like US terms, it's like suddenly you're like, well, you're mid to low in what you're earning, because we actually have to bring the money here and we have to pay taxes to just exchange that money here to Colombian pesos. So, but what people don't understand is that there's an exchange rate that the dollars to pesos go for, and that living here in Colombia is actually far, far less expensive than living, in a lot of places in the world. I guess the downside for people, not for me, I am a very proud Colombian, but the downside for people is living in Colombia. That would be the sacrifice that people are not willing to take. But again, as a very proud Colombian, and I think this is the most beautiful place on the earth, very, very flawed, but it is my country. We live here. We understand this as our home and we choose to be here. Me being American, my kids, they have their citizenship too. They actually have like German citizenship too. I could be in a lot of places in this world, and I could try to make my life or construct my life in many places.
Even in Germany, that amount of money that you just said, it's basically more than I made in my job that I had for 8 years with a publisher. Like, it's fine.
Yeah. Oh, for 12 years, I didn't make $1,000 a month when I was teaching. 12 years where I never made $1,000 a month every month when I was teaching. So I know exactly like how that feels. I always had to compensate with my paintings, always. Like I always told people, this is having 2 kids. This is so not enough for anything. Like I have to have this other job, this second job. And my second jobs would be just doing paintings, doing workshops, just teaching somewhere else. Also, even though I taught every single day of the week, also, I would go to the university every single day. So, I would do as many hours as you could teach, for a teacher at that university, at that faculty, and like weekly hours. And still, that wasn't $1,000 a month. So, so I understood that immediately, that, this is tough. Like, this is hard. You have to work really, really hard to like understand yourself as an artist and to make a living as an artist.
But you, would you say that, I mean, knowing all these things about how gallery life was for you and how things work out right now, and how, like not knowing what you want to do next year, for example.
Well, next year we do have the second year of this project, but let's say 2022, we don't.
Oh, the year after that, exactly. So, I mean, next year is basically right in front of the door right now.
Right.
But what I mean is, do you ever feel like this maybe wasn't the best decision? Because I mean, being a father myself, I understand that the situation of having to take care of your kids and a certain responsibility that's always like burning right under your fingernails and everything, that also can make you think in like very black and white terms as good decision and bad decision.
Right.
But you come across as someone who just, and that's something that I admire, like I'd like to do that myself. I just want to know, can I pull that shit off? Like, can I try? And what happens then? And is this maybe better than before? Did I just improve? Oh, if this doesn't work, then maybe I just try something else. Like, this is how you do it, right?
Yeah, no, and I always think that it's going to work. Always.
Optimistic. Okay.
Oh, no, not even opposite. Like that is my, like, I had a show a month ago. No, it was this month actually. At a Bend. It's a small gallery that I work with in the US. And I had like 25 small paintings. Yeah. And I told Danny, I'm going to buy this computer, and I bought it like a couple of months ago. And I was like, and through that show, I'm going to make about $3,000. So I know I can pay for these things with that show. And she was like, what are you talking about? Like, why would you do the math, like thinking that you're selling everything? It's like, oh no, I know I'm going to sell everything. I don't know. And it's not overconfidence. It's just that, I don't know. I've always built my life like that. I've always said, I'm going to do this. And I think that when I say I'm going to do this, it's because I believe in it. And that already entails that I believe it's going to work. So when I embark on something, it's like, I know this is going to work. Always.
So do you think that confidence is part of the success?
Probably. And it's not even being overconfident. It's just trusting that you know what you do. And I think a lot about what I have to do, a lot. You know, I probably spent, while I'm painting, hours reflecting on the choices that I make. This is not haphazard at all. This is me really, really thinking about things. And for example, taking a step like this, I told Danny at the beginning, she was like, what if it doesn't work? And I was like, we keep doing it. We keep doing every single video for 2 years. And she was like, yeah, but you're not teaching anymore. You're not going to have time to paint, larger paintings or anything else that would be able to subsidize, this project. If it doesn't work, that doesn't make sense. Like, if you're not selling anything, why would you ever keep just doing it? And I told her, the only way I'm going to do this is if we do it that way. Like, if we never stop, we don't stop. Like, that's it. I don't care if we have this web page that is just this horrible cemetery of paintings that you put up and you never sell. We do these videos. And she was like, well, at least give us a chance to monetize this channel. I was like, no, we're not doing that either. No, this is going to be clean, like super, super, as clean as you could be in YouTube. I mean, you're still using YouTube. So,
but you realize that other people, like I just posted today about this, like YouTube wants to put adverts even on people who are not partnering. So nobody will not on YouTube, nobody will not see any ads. It's just you saying, I don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah. And I guess that, because
come on, man.
If you look at it from that shore, you're like, dude, it's going to happen. Then you might as well do it. Again, it's ubiquitous. Everyone, they either pay for YouTube premium or they have ad blocks in their computer, but they'll find a way to not look at ads, a way by paying or a way by just, installing an app and then not having to deal with that. But people are going to deal with that. People expect that. But I think in a way, this is almost like having this fantasy of being able to control an aspect of your life that maybe is not really under your control. This was me. And I guess it makes sense with my life by saying, when I told you, I'm going to pick a person that lets me do whatever I want. And it was probably not, I did work with people that literally let me do like free reign and let me do whatever I want. But I think that I've always kind of understood that I need that, that I kind of, need a sense of that, or at least a feeling of that, or at least I need to convince myself, even if it's like a complete mirage, like it's fantasy. I need to convince myself that is what we're doing. Like to not be beholden to anything, it's like impossible, because if I am in Instagram and that is part of my work structure, like that's part of my market structure, I am beholden to Facebook. Like that's just, that is like inevitable. It is owned by Facebook. That's it, period. You work for Facebook. That's it.
Yep. Yep.
If you are, in YouTube, you already work for Google. You already do. Like they are using you. You as a person, are what they're looking for, So I totally get that. And unfortunately, we need those spaces, because I don't think just a web page would do. And I don't think just having a video server in a, different web page would do. So this again is like my fantasy of saying, okay, those are your rules, but F you, I'm going to believe that I'm not beholden to you. And at least I'm going to say, I'm going to fuck your algorithm, which I'm not, but by saying I'm going to have these small amount of views, because all the time, every single video, we get people writing like, dude, why do you guys have so little views? Like, what is going on? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually a good thing. That means that our videos they don't show up anywhere. Mm-hmm. And only people that are looking for these things find them. And I think that that's kind of cool. It's super ass backwards. I mean, it's super like dumb thing. Like it doesn't make sense, but it only starts to make sense when you say, yeah, but we've sold every single painting we've done, and we do have a small, very small, but successful little channel that feels like a little family. So it may not be the almost like 250,000 people that I have on Instagram, but it's close to being like 20,000 people on YouTube. And it just feels right. It just feels like, yeah, the people that are here, it's because they want to be here. Nobody clicked on this just because they, don't give a crap. And that kind of feels great. It feels different. And I told Danny, if we're expecting different results, we have to do things differently. We don't have to do, hey, 1,000 other YouTubers and people that do patrons and do all these things through like paywalls, they're doing this. We don't have to do that. So with every video that we put out, you can, it's all free. It's not like a super produced video. You're not getting like a real-time video that a lot of people will want, but you're getting 20 minutes every day. And with every single video, you're getting a high res file, like my original file of every single painting that I've painted. Yeah. So, and people are not used to that. People are like, what do you mean? Like for patrons, we have to pay more to get access to a PSE file or to a TIFF file, or, and we're just giving it away, and people can use it. And I always tell people, use it to print it, make prints and frame them or sell them. I don't care. Like, I literally don't care. I will not come after anyone, because right now you could just have every single painting in there and put together a book, because they are my original files. Like, if I put out a book, I'm using those files, those exact files to do a PDF. So anyone could do that. But if you think about it, I know you as somebody who loves books, I understand that. And I've put out 3 books already, 3 crowdsourced projects too. But if you think about it, there are, for example, a couple of books, 2 that I know of, that use Instagram images to print. And you have no way of fighting that, because those are not yours. Those are not yours. You relinquished your right to those images. So anyone could actually pick those images and use them in a book, and they would be fine. You could be pissed off about it. You could think that it's unfair. But if you are willing to be part of, Instagram or any other social media, you are giving up those rights. And that has happened. I've seen art books that obviously, and you would know, the print quality is it's not going to be great because these
Yes.
are JPEGs, like heavily compressed, and
yeah, it looks
they're
like
about
shit.
right. So they're about, what is it, 800, 1,000 by 1,000 pixels, I think, Instagram,
Not even,
maybe.
I think.
Yeah, or 800 by, I don't know. So yeah, obviously the print size of those is going to be crap, but people do it still. And I've seen people buy those books still. So people can work around those things if they want to. Look, if they want to go that far, they can work around those things. Coming from a place where, we are very close to South America, in Colombia, in Brazil, pirating stuff is just a reality that I've always been conscious of. Like, I would have students that would want, for example, to work in any, using any Adobe suites,
Okay.
and a ton of students would be like, I can't pay for that. I can't pay for Adobe. Like, or I want to use InDesign to do, books. I probably sure you use InDesign. I've used InDesign for my books too.
Yeah.
But it's gotten to be so expensive. I mean, it is an expensive tool. I'm going to be honest with you. This is the first time in my life that I've actually paid for Photoshop. First time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's absurd. Other times I was like, this is not cool. Like, I did a workshop where this woman, she had like a super high ranked job in Adobe. She took the workshop. She was like really, really high. And I told her, during the workshop, I was like, you guys are way too expensive. You don't know how much, well, she was like, oh no, we know. But I was like, nobody uses original software, in South America. It's just insane. It's just, even professionals, they don't use it because it makes no sense at all. And I guess, that kind of feeds into what I was telling you. Like, there is a belief, and this probably has to do with me being Colombian. It's just, stuff is just way too expensive. Like, things that should be more accessible are not. And the dark part of this is that people will find always a way, to get stuff, always. And or you could just have a philosophy where you make things a little more accessible. I'm not telling you don't make money. Like, if you have a business, if you have a lot of part people working, like, make money. Just make a little less money, Like, you don't, like, every artist, we don't have to be millionaires. We don't have to try and think that
I don't know any.
My goal, in painting, it's like, oh, my goal is to have, like, large, paintings sell for $150,000, $250,000. That's like that's like the pot at the end of the rainbow of painting, to just reach there. If you've gotten there, that you've built a market, and that you're successful, and that suddenly you're paying. And then just the upper echelons are like, if you make $1 million, if you're alive and you sell for $1 million, then it's like, that's crazy. That never happened, like, in the 70s, 80s. That used to be something that was like, yeah, this is for, dead people that were amazing. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly, late 80s, 90s, 2000s, now we have all these artists like selling for $1 million. It just has no, I don't know, there's no proportion for that in life. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's like, dude, you didn't need that money. Or me, I love football, like real football, like soccer for, American listeners. But I love it. Like, that's a sport that I absolutely adore. Yeah. And there's nothing more disproportionate than just the wages that soccer players like get.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And then people justify it's like, well, it's a club, and clubs are getting so much money. Clubs spend so much money, and they have to find a way to produce money. So if they pay Messi, 30 million euros a year, they know they're going to have to make it up by selling T-shirts and selling tickets. So the justification is always that everything else is just huge, and it's like a ton of money, and it's only this little gear that's in this huge machinery of making millions and billions of dollars eventually, and that to me is just not cool, because in terms of the sport, it ruins the sport. Like, you're going to get paid, like, for example, in the Premier League, there have been people that get paid like £350 a week, even if they don't play. It's like, what is your incentive to play? why would you ever want to go into the pitch? And you could say, well, because you want to win and you want to be a great player. But let's say you've already won. Let's say you've won the Prem League. Let's say you won the Champions League, and you've gone to the World Cup and you had great matches. And that has been, let's say, 5 years of your career, 6 years, and you have 10 years ahead of your career. And some of these people go like, I don't care anymore. Like, I'm going to cash it. Like, I'm cashing in, but it's not my fault. Like, these people are paying me this, even if I don't play. And I think it ruins it. At some point, just money comes in and ruins stuff. This is, or at least money that is so disproportionate, I feel, and I think that that's what just really skews, like, regular life. I think there's and what pains me about all of this is that I think there's incredibly talented painters out there. I've met them, and I'm sure you have too, with illustrators and artists.
Yeah.
And they can't even make a living. I've met some of the most amazing, talented people I've ever known, and they have shit jobs and they lead really tough lives. And I'm like, damn, this is not cool. This is not fair. Like because the only way to try to, make a living is always through, being beholden to these bigger machineries that their only intent is just to make a lot of money. Like, I've always told people, like, I've had great relationship with galleries and gallery directors, but I've known enough about that business to know that you're great and they'll love you if you sell. That's the truth. If you sell a lot, you are the most amazing artist ever, and you will get all their attention and all their efforts would be put into trying to sell more of your work. If you don't, you're going to be easily forgotten, like quickly thrown out, very, very quickly thrown out.
Okay.
And I think
but then you could still do that, right? Like, you could still do what you're doing right now. And just to add a little thought, like, in between, if you were in that position to sell a painting for 150,000 euros, let's just use that number, but you would be like, no, I don't really need the money. Why don't you give the money to those artists who you just mentioned, who can't make a living? Why don't you use the system? Because you're not going to change the system. It's not going to change.
Why not?
Be real.
Why not?
Why? Because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 artists who decided to go against it. Everybody else loves money.
I know, and I said this, like, I think a couple of videos ago, it's like, we know that in the grand scheme of things, what we're doing is not even imperceptible. It just doesn't exist in the market. Our effort does not create ripples. Like, it does nothing. It doesn't move a needle. It does absolutely nothing. Like, this is not like a delirious, like a grandiose delirium that I have here believing. But I also believe that I believe in it, and I believe that it could be different. Mm-hmm. And that should be enough, at least for me, because what we've done and what you've been saying is, like, we don't need $150,000. We buy about 5 works every month from other artists. So if you want to put like a figure on it, we're spending about $1,000 to $1,500 buying stuff every month. Mm-hmm. Every single month. We have, stacks of paintings, drawings, illustrations, everything. And usually 99%, because, for example, I bought like a John Paul Leon, because he is like one of my favorite comic book artists. And I was like, I want, a drawing of his. I want to commission like a Batman of his. $500. So I was like, oh yeah, that's a little expensive. But so I do want to believe that I can give myself the opportunity to say, oh, I'm going to buy something from somebody that I really like. But we buy stuff from young artists, like almost exclusively. And this is not just me saying it. Like, if while we're speaking, I could tell you, if we were speaking live, like if this was like a live channel and I had like, a lot of the people that I know, I'd be like, hey guys, chime in if we've bought like a painting of yours. Like, this is not bullshit. Like, this. No,
I believe you. I've been doing the same. I'm also
right. And I think that's awesome. And I think that that's part of, the point of all of this. It's not just for me to make money. It's just for me to say, hey, we're doing well, but I don't want to be the one that makes money.
So you want to lead by example.
I want everyone to do well. I want everyone to say, hey, you don't really need, if you don't have the chance, and if you're rejected by a ton of galleries like I was at the beginning, you don't just really need to bang your head up against the wall and to say, fuck, then the problem is probably me. What can I change about me to try and fit into those galleries to see if I can sell? And, maybe that gives you a chance. Maybe it doesn't. If I would have to bet, it doesn't. But maybe we regular people can support each other. We normal people that can have, a normal person can have $250, $300 to spare every other week and say, wow, I've been looking at your work. And I always tell people, like, just celebrate the work of the artists you admire. If you like somebody, reach to them and say, dude, is anything that you're doing for sale? Can I buy something off of you? A lot of times, even people go like, oh, no, I'd much rather do exchange works with you. And I've done that sometimes, but not really. I always tell people, we can do that afterwards if you want, but I want to buy something first because I want to show you that I want to pay for your work. Like it would be kind of easiest for me to just say, sure, let's exchange work.
No, that's great. I'm just thinking of people like Dolly Parton or other artists who have been making a lot of money but giving most of it away, and that's just something where I feel like, there's probably the I would say more like altruistic way of doing it, which I fucking admire because I have a little hippie in myself. Like I get why you're doing what you're doing. And Evan is the same, by the way. He's just like you.
Oh, he was born in the woods. Like he belongs. You can find him underneath like a bit of moss.
So what I mean is, so you could either do it like that and try to change the system from the inside, or you use it, and then enable other people with it.
Right. I totally get your point, but that was one of the reasons that I ended up quitting university, because the university that I worked for is a Jesuit-owned university. It's huge, absolutely huge. It's so rich. I mean, it's ridiculously big, and it has a ton of money. It's one of the richest private universities here in Colombia, I'm sure in South America. And our visual arts faculty was really big. I mean, at some point, we were admitting about 100 students each semester. That's a lot of students. For a visual arts faculty, that is a lot of people. And I never understood why that university, for example, never gave a full scholarship. It doesn't give a full scholarship. It doesn't. And all it does, it gives aids, partial aids to like one student every semester, but it's a very small percentage of your tuition. And I was like, are you kidding me? This is so messed up. Like, how much money do you have to start thinking that you can actually help out your students? And they were like, no, there's other government projects that can actually, financial aids that come from the government that could actually help those students. And I was like, yeah, that's not the same as a scholarship.
And why not add on top of it? Why not be part of that?
Exactly. But I was like,
oh, let them do the work.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, well, there's all these other projects. And I was like, yeah, but and those are debts. Those are debts. Those are like ease of payments. That's not like, hey, you don't have money, or hey, you've earned it. Here, your education doesn't cost anything. Period.
You got talent, like you have skill. There's a potential. We want to nurture that. Like, why not?
Exactly. And at some point, I was like being so critical of my own faculty, and I call it my own, even though like my alma mater is SVA, but I worked there so much at Javeriana that it was my home. That's where I would go every single day, literally Monday through Friday, every single day. And I would understand it as my own. And I was like, I am being so highly critical of my university that at some point I was like, why am I working here? What am I like? How does this make any sense? And I think with a guy, with Felipe Machado here in Bogota, we actually put, it's his studio, but we actually did a partnership where we were teaching, in the afternoons for people that, obviously had no access to, let's say, university level education because it was so expensive. And I think I did that with Felipe for maybe 8 years. And that felt good. That always felt like very, very refreshing, because it was a way to make up for that. But then at some point I was like, I just don't want to be part of this huge institution. I just really don't, because I can't share a ton of the things that they believe in, or they refuse to, move towards a place where they can be beneficial to, the many students, and not to just, the few that can pay for that university. But what they don't know is that their families are in such amazing debt just to pay for that education, that they're completely oblivious to that. So I was like, this is so irresponsible. Like, this is so not right. But what am I doing inside? I cannot, this was never going to change with me being inside. Never. Those were my employers. Like, that's it, period. And they would be, like I told you, like I would sign a contract for 6 months for every semester, and they could easily say, just, hey, if you're not happy, like, there's the door. Like, what is, nothing is stopping you, just leave. So at some point I was like, yes, you can be part of this bigger, equation that is, the education world, or the art market world. And I was, I'm not going to say, like, I'm not going to come here and demonize that. And I acknowledge, like, all its faults, but I was part of it. Like, when I was younger, for sure, I wanted to be successful in the sense of being, in a bigger gallery and selling, paintings for, really nice prices. That's what you get taught. That's how people define success in the art world. And that's how they define it for you in school. So for sure, I was like, yeah, this is my goal. And eventually I was like, yeah, I don't feel part of this. Like, I really don't feel part of this. So I totally get what you're saying. Like, yeah, make $1 million and then buy, don't make me do math here, 10,000, pieces of art, $1,000 each. I think I'm doing right. Maybe. No. Yeah. 10,000 for $100 each. And that way you're supporting 10,000 artists. That would be amazing. You yourself, with the money that you made, are now supporting 10,000 artists. But this is part of my argument. This is going to be my argument here. And I'm kind of sad that I'm saying this as a Colombian, but, Pablo Escobar, the huge drug dealer, he built hospitals. He built hospitals in places, in poor towns, where the country would even, like, turn a blind eye. So he would go to those poor places, and that's how he gained popularity among, poor people. And he would say, your country has turned your back on you. I won't. I'm going to build the hospital that you deserve, and I'm going to build schools. And then, that's why a lot of people thought he was a saint, because he was like, he's not like the government. He's actually putting his money back. Yeah, but it was drug money. It was money that came from assassinating, law enforcement, regular civilians, young people. This was money that came from impacting horribly the lives of millions and millions of people, throughout time, I would say, because the unregulated, like, drug market is just this horrendous thing that we tend to glorify. But it is not. For the countries that suffer it, like us in Colombia, it is not. There's nothing good about this, nothing at all. Yeah. So again, like, that would be like saying, ends justifies the means, right? And, maybe, maybe. There was a years in Colombia that obviously coincided with the years where drugs were really prevalent here, where the drug market was really prevalent, like in the late 80s, where there was a boom in art because art was not regulated. So you got these artists that have now become, like, super, super famous, obviously, and they would just sell artwork for, how much, however, all these drug lords and these, kingpins would pay for them, because they were trying to launder money, right? They had all this, millions and millions of dollars stashed, and they had to justify that. And they were like, well, we can either, like, put them in a wall, like, because that's literally what would happen here in Colombia, just, put them inside a wall, or we could buy artwork that is not, you wouldn't pay taxes for that. it wasn't regulated. So people would say, hey, this, for example, this Botero painting is worth $2 million. Sure. Yeah, here's $2 million. And now, now you had a painting that maybe it wasn't worth $2 million. But if they were to sell it eventually, maybe it was $500,000. So it was terrible business, but money was so abstract to them because it had no value. Honestly, it was so much that it had no value. But suddenly you now converted, $2 million of drug money into $500,000 of real, legitimate money by buying artwork. So there was a boom in artwork in Colombia that still resonates, if I have to be super honest, because of drug money, because of the drug market. And again, you could say, well, a ton of artists, are being helped and a ton of art institutions are being helped, and that could justify it. Or you could say, no, fuck that. I'm not, I don't want to be part of this.
Well, I hope that your university didn't have to do anything with drug money and stuff. So
Well, they're Jesuits, so they're not that,
It's even worse. No, I'm just kidding.
they are not. They're probably bigger sinners there. But anyways, no. So I totally get it. I totally understand what you're saying. There are so many roads to all of this, and that's why I think that being Colombian is probably part of this equation. Just understanding like maybe a different way of how art and society and education have generated different dynamics. And then having had the opportunity also to be educated in a place, that I owe so much to, like SVA, where, me being American, but not really, just American by being born there. But, they were quick to say, hey, we'll pay for your education. And when I needed money, I asked for an illustration grant and they were like, sure, we're going to give you money, and they would give me like $3,000 each semester because I didn't have any money. I mean, what I did with it is, not great. I would probably drink half of that money, but it was still like they were willing to help. And then to just see how things are run, in different, and by the way, SVA is probably, it's not perfect. I mean, it's one of the most expensive private art schools in the US also. So I'm sure it's not perfect, but at least it gave me an opportunity. And I'm essentially like, this kid that was in Colombia wanting to, draw comic books, and that was it, and it gave me an opportunity. And 12 years in a university here, I realized they don't give opportunities, and that's not cool. And so I don't know. I think that all those things, like the communion of all those things, is the kind of fuel for us to try and think that, sure, quantifiably, what are we doing to this market? Nothing, right? Nothing. I mean, next year when everything in theory bounces back, painters are still going to sell for thousands, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. That's what, the art market is looking for, to reactivate itself again, to just tell people, hey, you have to invest. That's the only way out. You have to invest. But we believe that just regular people can also buy artwork and create like this kind of healthy little market. And we totally believe it. And it doesn't have to behave like that other market. So it can kind of be its own thing. And that's what we're hoping to do. So I don't know.
I think that's beautiful, and I'm super thankful that you shared that. Not only that basically life story of yours, even though I think there's so much more to explore, and I hope that we can do that in another recording at some point.
Yes.
But I believe that you're onto something there. Like I really like this a lot, and I really think also that more people, if they can afford it, should really look out to buy more original work from artists and just support them. And that's something I've been also saying for years, that it would be just great if some artists that are doing well would also just keep supporting other artists, especially because they maybe would just have admired the same thing when they were in the same position. And I think it's beautiful that you do exactly that. I mean,
I think it's together. I think it's I mean, I don't want to put it as a responsibility, because I never want to tell people what to do. Like, I am a parent, and when people want to tell me what to do, I always feel like other parents try to tell you what to do with your kid, which is never good, ever good. It's like, don't tell me, like, you don't know my kid, like, don't come here. It's like, so I never tell people like, yeah, you should, but I always think it's cool. I always kind of frame it as, hey, it's so awesome to just be part of this larger community where you yourself, like you said, you yourself can start supporting these younger artists that are coming up. And it may mean not so much to you. Like for us, it means like spending $250, $300 on something. But for other people, for those people are like, it's like, oh, they bought like my painting, like Karl Kapinski bought like my drawing. That's amazing. Like I
it's
feel
not only that.
so awesome.
It's like a month of rent for them, maybe. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. Or they finally could buy the art book that they wanted, or they finally could buy the paint set that they wanted, or they finally could, do whatever. It doesn't matter, but just to keep them going. And I think that that's super, super cool. Like, I think that feeling is cool. It really socializes artwork in a way that is, it almost like it feels like it's meant to be. So even though we have this tool that can be demonized in 1,000 ways, which is social media and Instagram, and we can be aware of all the terrible risks that we can run when using it. And even though it may condition us to believe that what we care about is likes and engagement and all these stupid words, in reality, it can actually connect people and say, we're using your fucking tool, but we're actually making this connection where we feel like we can support each other. And I think that that's awesome.
Thank you very much for your time. And I hope we can catch up again and talk a bit more detailed about your experience, especially in America. I'd like to hear more about that.
Oh, no, thank you. It was a lot of drinking and painting. That's about it. I'm kidding.
Of course you're not. Take care.
Yeah, thank you.